What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Top 5 Thursday. This is another Top 5 Thursday for Jacob Williams Dudgeon. I mean, this dude, he just keeps coming back with them. And of course, he asked this question last week. He brought it back. And I wanted to do it last week. I really love me some Chuck Norris. So if you like some Chuck Norris movies, you might want to stick around, even though I might piss you off. I don't know. Maybe Dodgeball is my number one Chuck Norris movie. Okay, I won't go that far with it. But yes, we are doing top 5 Chuck Norris movies. So strap in, man. I love doing these old school action fucking slash martial artist type of movies. Or just action movies in general. Because, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone, the giants of the genre weren't really martial artists. But it's only a little more fun when you add in the Van Damme, Seagulls, and Chuck Norris's of the world because they got that little extra component. And I love it. I love it all. All that shit. That cheesy 80s action bullshit. I love it. Oh, I don't care how bad it is sometimes. I just love it. It's just the easiest shit to throw on. It's just straight popcorn movie to me. They don't make them like they used to, people. They don't make them like they used to. But anyways, let's jump into my top 5. At number 5, I actually got a couple VHSs out, believe it or not. This is going to be my number 5. Y'all ready for this? Even though I don't even think it should necessarily be top 5, but it's on here. Fuck it. Y'all, what y'all know about that? What y'all know about Sidekicks? This is like past Norris Prime type shit. But if you grew up watching this movie, your life was great. If you didn't, your life still might have been great, but you don't know what you were missing. I mean, I'm a guy that grew up on these action stars, kind of like I was touching on in the beginning. Mainly Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, Steven Seagal, and, of course, Sylvester Stallone. But I love some Chuck Norris, too. I loved all the fucking, even like the Jeff Speakmans of the world, all that shit. I was just fucking, every fucking action movie coming out back then just had me mesmerized. Those were my heroes. Those were my fucking MCU characters. I wanted this shit that had happened with Expendables way back in their prime. That's why it kind of hurts me to watch Expendables now. It's good, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, God, if they just would have did this in the 90s, you know what I mean? One of those things. But, of course, here is Chuck Norris in this movie, Sidekicks. And he's basically, well, not him. There's a kid, let's put it that way. And he is basically me. So when I'm watching this kid that feels like he's around the same age as me, who has, a similar personality, I guess, has similar interests in movies. Like, he comes home, he watches the action movies, he goes to school the next day, he's like, oh my God, you should have seen it. Oh man, he was so good in that movie. And he kind of would just daydream like he was in the movies with his favorite action stars. And that's kind of how, I would do when I was young. I'd be like, man, over here, all 4 foot tall next to Van Damme, like, come on, man, let's kick their ass. I feel like I was already living that life. So when this movie was introduced to me, I naturally cling to it right the fuck away. Sidekicks is a movie that, it's kind of dated now, and it's kind of like, if I watch this as an adult, I don't know if I like it that much. But when I bought this VHS, because I finally was like, I need to own this, and I couldn't find the DVD, popped it in I got one of those like little TVs that have the VHS player built into it. Watched that shit, and it took me right back, dude. It was like I was that 7-year-old on the couch again, just watching one of my favorite movies that is about other movies and how you could be your fucking favorite action star's best friend and y'all team up together. This movie holds a special place in my heart, dude. So that's going to make my top 5 for that reason alone. All right. On to stuff that I feel actually deserves to be in contention. Number 4. I'm going to go with Code of Silence. Code of Silence, undoubtedly one of Chuck Norris's best fucking movies, in my opinion. I mean, this is a movie that is a lot of people know Above the Law with Steven Seagal. This movie has a lot of similarities with Above the Law. It even has the same fucking villain. So it's almost like you want to watch Above the Law in an alternate universe, except one with Chuck Norris. Maybe that should be vice versa, because this came out before Above the Law. But for the sake of this list, we'll talk about it that way. We're watching this as a Chuck Norris movie now. And, Above the Law is a Chuck Norris movie. And It's good. I mean, I might say it's just as good as Above the Law. And many people, some people even say that's Steven Seagal's best. The action scenes, awesome. The martial arts in this movie, it's still there. Don't get me wrong when I say this, but it's a little more gun heavy driven, I guess. I don't know. Like, I mean, of course, we have guns ablazing in movies like Missing in Action with Chuck Norris. I get all that. But some even in like the war movies, like I felt like I was looking at a martial artist first for some reason. When I watch Code of Silence, I feel a little more dramatic, a little more he's gonna shoot you in the face first before the martial arts, and that's all while not sacrificing many a kick in this whole movie too. It's just something about the vibe of the movie. So I think that kind of made it unique at its time. I mean, it's got a lot of memorable scenes. For instance, one of them that I love at the very end where he goes in the warehouse. He's got that shotgun, and it's just Chuck Norris doing Chuck Norris things, blowing shit up. He goes into that one place with like the gun, and he's like over here trying to, basically, he walks into a gun. There's like what seems like 80 Mexican people just chilling, you know, Hispanic people. They might have been Cuban. I don't fucking know. And he goes up in there and he's just pointing the gun at everybody, and he's just going around to him like, hey, you want to try something? And somebody could easily attack him, but it's Chuck Norris. You don't fuck with Chuck Norris. Just so many good, memorable scenes that, you know, some people could be like, all right, dude, you like this? This is cheesy? You're damn right I do. Code of Silence is a good fucking time. Love that fucking movie. All right, number 3. We're going to go with Silent Rage. Maybe I should have busted out the Blu-ray for this one, but guess not. Silent Rage is a movie where Chuck Norris, a lot of people compare it this way, basically fights Michael Myers. It's almost like you're watching, like, not exactly. I mean, he's not wearing a mask and all this, but it almost feels kind of like Michael Myers-ish. And, you know, that classic killer coming after you, except, you know, the protagonist isn't like a Dr. Loomis. It's a Chuck Norris. So he's over here like roundhouse kicking the motherfucker. Basically, they shoot up this guy. He just keeps coming back, and Chuck Norris has to handle shit. And it leads all the way to the end to, like, you know, your typical slasher movie fashion where the killer just keeps coming back after he's been beat to a pulp and kicked around a million times. And he feels superhuman because you're like, how could he survive all this? And Chuck Norris just keeps answering that bell. Like, motherfucker, you want another roundhouse? I'll give you another fucking roundhouse. I will do that for you, bro. Come at me, Michael. I mean, hold on. This ain't my... Who is this? You know, he's on the fucking set saying that shit because it feels so similar. It's just, dude, it's a cool thing. For me, love martial arts, love Chuck Norris. Also, happen to love slasher movies if you haven't figured that out yet. So you combine all those together, yeah, it's stupidity, but is it also fun? Once again, you bet your ass it is. It is just a really cool spin to see on that type of movie. A spin just like that spin on Chuck Norris' kick that he delivers to that guy's chops over and over again. I mean, come on, man. Silent Rage is definitely an underrated Chuck Norris flick, and it's definitely a Chuck Norris flick that's worth your time if you have not paid attention to it because you're like, what's this? It seems cheap. It's about like a killer almost. Like, yeah, it's kind of dumb, but what fucking Chuck Norris movie isn't dumb, dude? This isn't like some Oscar-worthy guy. And honestly, he doesn't have many great movies at all. But they're fun movies. And they're great in their own way if that is your kind of niche. And this one's nothing short of that. Fucking, yeah, of course. Of course. Silent Rage is in my top 5. At number 2, this was a tough one I was struggling with. I even brought this out. Way of the Dragon, even though that says Return of the Dragon, because, you know, it's got 2 titles. Originally, I was going to leave this off here. And the big overarching reason why is I've said this before in my top 5s. There's a lot of times I have movies where I'm like, dude, this would be number 1. But the thing is, he just kind of appears into the movie. You know, is this his movie? This is the best movie on this list, but is this the best Chuck Norris movie? You got to fucking ask yourself these kind of questions. Because really, man, if you don't watch enough Bruce Lee, I know there's so many like casuals or people that like to pretend they're big fans. Chuck Norris isn't in the movie a whole lot. Like the first half or so of the movie, he's not in it at all. They finally call him in. He shows up. You see him on the plane, and then you see him like fighting with somebody. Like, okay, we'll send him in, and then boom, it's the end fight. That's basically like what he's in, like 3 scenes. But as much as I rack my brain about it, maybe it's just the need to talk at least a little Bruce Lee finally on this fucking channel. Oh my God, I've been holding it in for almost a year now. Woo, it's been tough, guys. Yeah, that combined with the fight. The fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris might be the most iconic fight in the world. So, you know, the couple scenes, him being the main bad guy at the end of the day, and him having being possible, maybe this is the most iconic fight scene ever, and he's involved in it. You know, I was like, fine, fuck it, I'm gonna put it on there. And Way of the Dragon, clearly a cut above the previous three films. It's not even fucking close. Such a better, well-made movie than the last three films. You know, the last three films are like that, oh my god, this is stupid, this is a ton of fun, you know, kind of like I harped on a whole lot. Way of the Dragon is a movie that's just like, oh man, this is a great movie. It's got stupid scenes in it, but it's so fucking well made, because this is where Bruce Lee switched it up and got a little bit witty on everybody. So there's a lot more stupid jokes, mainly in the beginning. But the movie as a whole is just so better crafted and just better made. It's Bruce Lee. He wouldn't settle for less than that, I don't think. But Chuck Norris, that's who this is mainly about. I think he played the villain role really well. I remember seeing it when I was really young. Now, granted, I'd seen all these other movies, because this movie came out 1971, 1970. No. I'm going to say 1972 is when this movie came out. Let's see if I got a quick thing on here. It says 1973, actually. I was 1 year off. Anyways, yeah, it shows how big of a Bruce Lee fan I am. But yeah, 1972 is when it came out. But you got to think, when I'm seeing it, I was born in 1991. I'm seeing it when a bunch of other Chuck Norris movies came out. So I might not have necessarily seen this one first. It was in and around there, because I was basically a big Bruce Lee fan since birth. But I remember this being like me seeing Chuck Norris and me even being like, Chuck Norris looks different in this movie, because he was so fucking young. But despite the baby face and all that, this hairy bastard. Yes, this hairy bastard, because he had hair all over his back. He was fucking hairy as shit in this movie. It was almost disgusting to the point, you know. But he was kind of like creepy. He had that silent, like, assassin type vibe going for him. And I think he gave like a really solid like performance for what he was in. To be relegated to basically like a non-speaking role, he shows up. You see him kind of test what he's doing, and you're like, okay, yeah, this guy's definitely a superior fighter. And then the moves he delivers in the Coliseum, absolutely amazing. Stuff of legend between him and Bruce. And honestly, like, I think his acting was like not bad either. Like at the end, when he finally, spoiler alert, meets his demise, where he wanted to go out, it didn't matter what, like, he wasn't going to go out like laying down defeated. It didn't matter if he died. It didn't matter if he was on his last leg, which he basically was in the situation. He was going to go out with a fucking bang. And I remember, just like Bruce does in the movie, he shows respect after finishing him off. Like, I respected that as a kid. I was like, this dude's a fucking G. Even then, I knew that. And Chuck Norris left a big imprint for those kind of reasons. And even when he got hurt, like, you could almost see him look kind of teary-eyed, but he had that determination in his eyes still. Chuck Norris was solid in this fucking movie. It was absolutely the right choice to fight Bruce. Because, again, iconic. Iconic as fuck. I'm about to watch that fight scene after this, because fuck it, dude. Fuck it. Anyways, number one. Back to, you know, movies that are just kind of dumb fun. Yes, I left off some. No Missing in Action movies made it on this list. Lone Wolf McQuade is one that was close. That's a favorite, but I left it off. Sidekicks beat it out barely for nostalgia's sake, but I'm almost regretting it now. So what would be number one? The Expendable. No, I'm not doing that. Remember? He's got to have a big role, or at least something as iconic as the last one. Number one is going to have to be Force Vengeance. Force Vengeance, I think, is Chuck Norris's best martial arts movie. I think it is the best representation of his skills. I think also it is probably his best, like, one-liners, like the stupid one-off jokes that make these action stars pop even more. You know, the things that are just like, nowadays you're like, oh man, that's cringy. But back in the day, though, it was fucking dope. For whatever reason, it worked, and it works like a motherfucker here. There's so many little things that Chuck Norris's character in this movie does that make me, you know, not like laugh out loud, but I'm like, like, you know, like a quick chuckle before he just kicks somebody's ass. There is so many numerous fight scenes in this movie. From the moment it started, dude, like, it starts off kind of like where you can just see the outline of two figures fighting, and it's in slow motion while it's got the, you know, opening credits with the names and everything, and it's just beautiful, dude. It kind of lures you in immediately, because you're just watching, like, dude duck real slow as, like, a spin kick goes over his head, and he ducks again, and then he kind of counters back, and it's like you can tell they're like higher in the air on some like steps or something, and then there's a sign behind them that's glowing, that's allowing you to somewhat be able to see these dark figures fight. And it is just beautiful. Maybe one of my favorite openings to a movie. I absolutely love it, and I knew from the second I watched this movie at a young age, I was in it to win it from that point on. Like I said, the fight scenes didn't let up after that. Also, of course, this is a revenge flick. God damn, I don't care how many times they've done revenge flicks. I'm always the fuck in. Yeah, no shortage of a good time in from that standpoint here. Revenge definitely is a dish best served cold. And then, of course, like I said, some of the one-liners, not even just the one-liners. Like, there's one scene in particular. There's a guy that pops up with nunchucks thinking he's hot shit, and Chuck Norris just stares at him like this. And then, like, in the blink of an eye, he shoots, like, a sign or something above him and comes down and crashes on him. Just little stupid, chuckly fucking jokes like that. They didn't have to be in the movie, but the movie's all the better for it because it has it. And, of course, you know, the Hong Kong atmosphere. I just love that shit. This is, I think, Norris's best movie. I really do. Like, if this is your kind of thing. Now, there might be a few that are a little bit more on the serious side that you consider better, but when I come to a Chuck Norris movie for and 90% of his movies, they're just cheesy popcorn goodness. I mean, you want to talk about cheesy popcorn goodness with one-liners, stupid over-the-top action scenes that are ridiculous, and just overall showcasing his skill. I think Force Vengeance has the best dose of that. So Force Vengeance is going to be my numero uno. Thanks again, Mr. Jacob William Dudgeon. You're killing it, dude. You're killing it. Anyways, guys, love y'all. That was my Chuck Norris top 5. Let me know any disagreements or, you know, just whatever. Why the fuck wasn't Hitman on there? You know, the one where Chuck Norris has the Van Damme mullet from Hard Target. Yeah, it's not a very good movie, but, you know, he's got a lot, man. He's got some sleepers in there, too. But, yeah, let me know, guys. Love y'all. See ya.